Okay, welcome everyone. As our shir is dedicated by A.B. Spry for the safety of our soldiers, today was yesterday was a very hard day for Klal Yisrael with the loss of 24 soldiers. We have to remember what it says in Masechtas Makos. When are our feet standing in battle? When there's learning in the gates of the Beis HaKnesses and the Beis HaMedrash. So it's up to us to learn with more thought towards their safety and the safety of Klal Yisrael. And Abi asked us to learn special for Isuzev ben Yuta. Also by Shimon Klein, Lila Nishmas Asher Anshe ben Yehuda, and Gittel by Shimon Pinchas, by Irving Fishbaum, L'Refuah Shalema for Issa ben Rezel, and Eliezer ben Rezel. My Shver is having a scan tomorrow, so you should have him in mind. Avigdor Aye ben Rivka, Meir ben Chayesara. What, A.B.?
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that my son was released today from the army.
Oh, Baruch Hashem. That's very good news. That's very good news.
Otherwise,
Yes.
could you add my wife's and my grandmother's, her yard side?
What's the name?
Her name is Chaya Rachel Bas Menashe.
Chaya Rachel Bas Menashe. Her neshama should have a lichtige Gan Eden on her yard side. She should be a litzis yeshara for her family, for all of us, and all of Klal Yisrael. We welcome in here today Aaron Swade and Yitz Fuchs, Eddie Chazan, Irving Fishbaum, A.B. Spry, Nachman Chapler, Stephen Holtzman, Mel Zachter, Dr. Guy, Menachem Yemansky, Dr. Udell, Naftali Javelin, Yitzi Muller, Abe Arbach, Rabbi Kranz, Shimon Deer, Chaim Braun, and here in the shul we have Reb Kramer and Saba. We have Ruvain Shanet. We are blessed with a new mispalel. His name is Michal Avram Chavin, and you're very warmly welcome here. We have Rich Kramer, and I believe that Rich Lenner is somewhere lurking in the background. Oh, he left already? Maybe he went to the vote. You should know the vote is not going away. Okay. We welcome in David Helfgott on Kol HaLashon, and we are holding at the very top of Daf Pei Beis and Aleph, as we welcome in also Michael joining us. The Gemara says that Yeshua only made 10 takanas. So the Gemara says, but we have other takanas institutions that Yeshua did when he inherited the land and he gave it to the Shvatim. When Ravin arrived, he said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, right? If, let's say, Michal Avram has a tree whose branch it leans over into his friend's field, and his fruit is actually growing in his friend's field. Or if he has a tree near the boundary, within 16 amas of the boundary of his friend, and when a tree is within 16 amas, it is yonek, it nourishes from his friend's field. So I might think that when he brings the Bikurim, he should not be able to say the text of the Bikurim, because in the text of the Bikurim, we say these are the Bikurim of the ground that you gave me. And this is not ground that it's not. I would think it's not his ground because it's getting nutrients from his neighbor's property. But the Gemara says no. You could bring the Bikurim. You could say the text Shalmanas Kain Hinchel Yeshua Yisrael Esaretz, because with this condition, Klal Yisrael says that you could plant up to the border of your field, even though the roots go into your neighbor's field. Says the Gemara. So why doesn't it count this? Says the Gemara, Alaman Tana Asaret Tnoim Shehisni Yeshua. Who is the Tana of the 10 conditions that Yeshua stipulated? it wasn't really a Tana, it was actually an Amayra. Oh boy, look how many people are arriving here late tonight, as we welcome in Dr. Block and Ilya Shutman, Shelley Zeitlin, and Marshall Castle. Pesach Singelman is joining us. Okay, Rabbi Isai, good to have everybody. As we're answering now that the list of the 10 conditions was not made by a Tana, but was rather said by an Amoira. And he's listing the 10 besides the other conditions that we know. It's not an exhaustive list. It was done by Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. It's Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi who was an Amoira. Rav Gavia mibei Kassel, Rav Gavia from the Academy of Kassel, Masnala Behedya, taught it in the name, outright in the name Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Rav Tanchum Raburius Imre Mishum Zakein Echad, said in the name of one elder, Umanu, the great Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Asara Tanayim Hisni Yeshua. Yeshua made 10 stipulations. Now, the Gemara lists another 10 takonas. Asara takonas, 10 enactments, Tikkun Ezra, Ezra enacted. Now, some of this is going to come as a surprise, because we would think that they were really enacted earlier by Moshe Rabbeinu. So the Gemara is going to explain all 10 enactments. But Asara Tanoim Hisni Yeshua, Asara Takanas Tikkun Ezra, Ezra made 10 enactments. Shekayrim b'mincha b'Shabbos, that we lane, like we do, from the Torah, Shabbos afternoon by mincha. V'kayrin b'sheni u'b'chamishi, and that we lane on Monday and Thursday morning. V'donin b'sheni u'b'chamishi, and that the Bezdin meets to litigate on Mondays and Thursdays. Or mechapsim b'chamishi b'Shabbos, and that we launder our clothing on Thursday, that it should be fresh for Shabbos. Some people learned that the enactment was that you shouldn't do it on Friday, so that Friday should be free for the other tzarchei Shabbos, for the other needs of Shabbos. V'oichlin shum be'erev Shabbos, and that one should eat garlic on Erev Shabbos. We'll see that since Friday night is a Zman Ona, it's a time for marital intimacy, and garlic increases the zera, the semen, and therefore it makes it more pleasurable for the man and more pleasurable for the woman, and therefore it was a custom to eat garlic. That's where the Hungarian custom is to serve radish with the soup, because radish is also marba the zera. That's where that minute comes from. V'shetei isha mashkemes v'oifa, and that a woman should bake early in the morning so that when aniyim come around, there should be fresh bread to give to the poor. V'shetei isha chageres b'sina, that a woman should wear a girdle-like garment so that it should be more tzniistic. V'shetei isha chayfefes v'toiveles, she should comb her hair before she's toivel to make sure to get out any dirt and any gnats. V'shiyehu roichlin machzirin bayoris, and that cosmetic peddlers should go, the Avon ladies should go to every house. They can't say, oh, that cul-de-sac is very poor, I'm not going to get any business, it's not worth it for me to go there, but rather they should go to every house on the route and not accept, they should not delete any route, any house. The tikkun tefillah lebaalei karyan, and the final takana is that a person that saw a semen, a nocturnal pollution, should not learn Torah until he goes to the mikveh. This is not nageh anymore, but this was a takana, and we'll talk why a little bit later in the Gemara. As we now proceed to explain all 10 of these enactments, we want to welcome in, we had an influx of people coming in there. Shalom Fogel, Chaim Braun. Shalom, are you back in Florida? Oh, Shalom, things are better? Should get better and better. And Jay Siegel has joined us, and Yitzi Muller has joined us. It's good to have everybody. as we have now 27 Zoomers here, and just getting underway here on this beautiful Tuesday evening. So the first takana of Ezra is sheyehu kairim b'mincha b'Shabbos, that we should lane by mincha on Shabbos. Why? Mishum yoshvei kronos. Now, there's different opinions. Yoshvei kronos. Rashi learns yoshvei kronos different than usual. Usually we refer to the bums as the yoshvei kronos because they sit on the corners looking for action. They're not doing anything. Rashi over here learns that yoshvei kronos are the storekeepers, who of course have stores in good spots, and a corner is a good spot for a store. And because they're storekeepers and they have to be in the store all the time, and they don't get a chance to hear the new parsha on Mondays and Thursdays, so therefore they enacted it on Shabbos when the storekeepers, of course, aren't in the store. They're Shomer Shabbos. The other pshat is that it is referring to Yoshvei Kronos, to idle people. The idle people, since on Shabbos they're sitting idle and they're not learning Torah, so we want to make sure that they also hear Torah, so therefore we lane it by mincha. We want to welcome Sandy Grunfeld, the first one to join us on Facebook. It's good to have you. V'shiyehu kairin b'sheni u'b'chamishi, and that they should be laning on Mondays and Thursdays. So right away this elicits a question from the Gemara. I thought Monday and Thursday was made by the Moshe Rabbeinu. Ezra made it. No, that was already enacted. The Tanya, they went 3 days in the desert, and they didn't find water. So water over here is not just a reference to physical water, it's also a reference that they went in the desert and they didn't occupy themselves with Torah. Torah is compared to water. Just like water comes from heaven, Torah comes from heaven. Just like water quenches the thirst of the body, Torah quenches the thirst of the soul. And just like water flows from high to low, so does Torah find itself by the humble. And just like water, it causes growth, Torah causes growth, as the Gemara explains. Dorshei Rishumais, those that expound on secrets, Amru, Ein Mayim Ela Torah. Water is a metaphor for Torah. Shenema Holy Cold Same, all those that have a thirst. Those are people that are unfulfilled, people that they're restless, they're looking for something, they don't know what. L'chula Mayim, go to Torah, that's what your soul is looking for. And Kevin Sholchu Shloshis Yama B'lei Torah, since they went 3 days without Torah, Nilu, they became wearied. So Amdu Nevi'im Shebeneim, the prophets amongst them, enacted, is all shayla what it means, the prophets amongst them. Most people say that this is a reference to Moshe and the Zakenim that were with him. The Tiknu Lahem, and they enacted Shiu Kairin b'Shabbos, they should lane on Shabbos. Then Umafsikim Be'echad b'Shabbos, there's a break on Sunday. V'Kairin b'Sheni, they lane on Monday. Umafsikim Shlishi Revita, there's a break Tuesday and Wednesday. V'Kairin b'Chamishi, then they lane on Thursday. Umafsikim Erev Shabbos, there's a break on Friday. So there's never a break of 3 days. Kadesh Linu Gimel Yama B'Lei Torah. There are never 3 days without Torah. So the Gemara says, what do you mean Ezra made it? Moshe Rabbeinu Usiyatai made it. What do you mean Ezra? Says the Gemara, Meikor tiknu chad gavra tlos psuke. Initially the enactment was that only one person laned 3 psukim. Inami tlos gavra tlos psuke. Or 3 people laned, each one laned 1 pasuk. And that's it. Keneged, and why would it be 3? Keneged Kahanim Leviim v'Yisraelim. Corresponding to Kahanim, Leviim, and Yisrael. Also, he came along and came Tlosa Gavre. Ezra made it 3 people, V'asora Psuke, and 10 Psukim. Why 10 Psukim? Keneged Asora Batlonin. As we learned in Masechtas Megillah, town used to have 10 people that were idle to make sure that there would always be minyan all the time. And therefore, it's Keneged those Asora Batlonin. V'donim b'sheni b'chamishi, and they litigated on Monday and Thursday because everybody made sure to come on Monday and Thursday to hear Kriyas HaTorah. the shricha the asal lemikra b'sifra, because everybody makes sure to come to hear the laning from the Torah, so people are available. So they made the court days Monday and Thursday. V'shiyuhu mechapsim b'chamishi b'Shabbos, and they laundered the clothes on Thursday mishum kvayt Shabbos, because when it says in the pasuk v'chibadetoi, you should honor. What does it mean to honor the Shabbos? The Gemara says b'ksus nekiya, with clean clothing, and therefore they instituted you should make sure to launder. And I told you that some people say that the main institution was that they should do it on Thursday and not on Friday, so that they should be free on Friday to do the rest of the needs of Shabbos. V'sheyehu eichlin shum be'erev Shabbos, and that they would eat garlic erev Shabbos mishum oina, because it was the time of marital intimacy. D'chsiv asher piryo yitain be'itai. Your fruit is given in its proper time, and the proper time was Shabbos, because first of all, Shabbos is zeicha lebria, and therefore it's a good time to engage in bria, in creating. Also, it's an einig Shabbos, and I told you also the Ben Yoyada says that since in the olden days, on Friday night, they didn't learn by the Oraner, because there was a fear that if they would learn by the candlelight, they might tilt the oil to the wick and be mavir. So therefore, since they didn't learn by the Oraner, they therefore had available time to gladden their wives. I also told you that the Rosh says, V'shamru b'nei Yisrael es ha-Shabbos. B'nei Yisrael es ha-Shabbos is Rosh Tevis Bia. B'nei Beis, Yisrael Yud, es Aleph, ha-Shabbos is Hey. It's Bia that you should anticipate to have Bia on Friday night. V'am Reb Yehuda v'Yisemer of Nachman. Reb Yehuda said, and others say Reb Nachman v'Yisemer of Kahana. Yet others say Reb Kahana v'Yisemer Reb Yochanan. Yet others say it's Reb Yochanan. It was a very popular dictum. As we welcome in Abe Arbach joining us, as we have now arrived at 29 Zoomers. Good to have everybody. And this is, of course, the bia of a Talmud Chacham that has bia from Friday night to Friday night. Tana Rabbanan, garlic is a favorable food. Tana Rabbanan chamisha dvarim nemru b'shum. It says 5 things about shum. Mazbia, it satisfies. Umashkin, it warms the body. Umatzel panim, it causes the face to shine. Umar ba'azera, it increases the semen. V'hoire kinim sheb'nei ma'ayim, and it kills intestinal lice. V'yesh ayim machnis ava, it's mesameach alev, which promotes love. Umaytzias hakina, and gets rid of jealousy. When the wife sees that her husband is producing zera, she's not jealous of other people, and feels that her husband wants her. V'shetei isha mashkemes va'oifa, and a woman should get up early to bake. Kedei shetei pas mitzuyu laniyim, that she should have bread ready for the poor. V'shetei isha chageres b'sinur, she should wear a girdle type garment. Mishum tzniusa, because it's more private. V'shetei isha chayfefes v'toivelis, she should comb her hair before she immerses. So the Gemara wonders, well, we all know that dirt in the hair and a knot is a chatzitza midaraisa, biblically. What did Ezra enact? Says the Gemara, daraisi. That's biblical, that the hair can't have a chatzitza. The Tanya Barachat says, b'saroi b'mayim, should bathe your basar in the water. And we learn out that the basar has to be directly in contact, the flesh has to be in contact with the water. There should be nothing interposing between his flesh and the water. And then it says, es basarai, es adds, es hatafel basar, that which is secondary to the flesh, or my new sar. So you see that there can't be any interposition in the hair. So what do you mean that it's a takon of Ezra? Says Imre Doraisa Iyune. Biblically, it's enough for her to check Dilma Mikter if there's a knot, Inami Mois Mide, or maybe there's something dirt there, mishum chatzisa. But Ezra said it's not enough to just eyeball, you have to actually brush it. You have to actually scratch it. But also Ezra tikin chafifa, that you have to brush it, b'masreik, with a comb. Now, as we begin on Daf Pei Beis Amud Beis, we want to remind everybody that tomorrow night will be Amir Hashem, the Chumash here after the Daf, and everybody is invited to bring a friend. Reb Kramer, you want to put us down and get me some fresh water? Says the Gemara, V'sheyehu reichlin marzirim ba'yaros, and peddlers go around the cities, meaning that the Avon ladies have to go to every house on the route, mishum tachshite noshim, to have cosmetics for the women, kidei shelo yizganu al baleim, that they shouldn't be unseemly to their husbands. Now, I believe that Ezra got this idea from the mun, because it says that together with the mun, Hashem sent down cosmetics. I've said many years that if it was up to me, I'd hang on my schach Maybelline and Revlon. Only reason I don't do it is because they laugh me out of Lakewood. But otherwise, I would hang Maybelline and Revlon, because the schach is representative of the Anani HaKavod, and it came down from the Anani HaKavod, not just mun. Today everybody said the Parshas Haman, not just mun, but also it says Takshite Nashim. It's a Gemara in Saita. And the reason is because we had to carry out weapons. And the reason we had to carry out weapons, v'chamushim alu b'nei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim, is because many years later, when we would fight with Oig and Sichon, we would need weapons. So you'll say, why do we have to schlep for 40 years weapons? Let them come down from heaven. The answer is, weapons will never come down from heaven. Oig says, shalom b'mrayma. Heaven is a place of peace. Cosmetics, that'll fall down from heaven, because that's a matter of peace. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehakol niyeh b'dvaro. I just get a report that S.T. Lauder's son Ronald is a big supporter of Yiddishkeit. Okay, good for Ronald. Now, V'tiken Tefillah L'Balei Keryon. This was a big institution of Ezra, that he made it that after having intimacy with one's wife, one was not allowed to learn until one went to the mikveh. So the Gemara says, well, we know about Keriy's Tamek. Says Gemara, Doraisu, that's Doraisu. D'chsiv ish ki tzeitzi mimenu shikva zera, a man that has from him semen, v'rocha says b'sari b'mayim, he has to go to the mikveh. Says Gemara, no, that's just if he wants to eat truma or kachim, he has to go to the mikveh. Doraisu l'truma v'kachim. But Ezra came along and also tikkun afilu l'divrei Torah. Ezra said, you're not allowed to learn Torah. Now, you can imagine that in those days, they didn't have fancy mikvahs. You know, they had to go out to the river in the cold and go to the mikvah. It was a very big takana. The reason why Ezra did it, the Gemara says an interesting reason. Shelo yehei talmidei chachamim mitzuyis eitzel nesheim kitar negolim. That talmidei chachamim should not be with their wives like chickens. You see, there was a worry that since a Talmid Chacham would be afraid of any time having any Hirurim, so if he had any thoughts, he would want to be with his wife in order that it should cleanse him from any sinful thoughts. So therefore he wanted to be right away with his wife. And Ezra said that's not the right way. The right way is to learn Torah, then you won't have sinful thoughts. So in order that they, as a deterrent, that they shouldn't be so much with their wives, which is not good, Therefore, he said, you're not going to be able to learn. You're going to have to go to the mikveh. So that was it made it that they shouldn't be too often with their wives. This takana is not practiced anymore today. The Gemara tells us now, we move on to 10 things, 10 enactments that were made in Yerushalayim. Asara Devarim Nemru b'Yerushalayim. 10 things were said about Yerushalayim. Ein abayis cholet ba. That even though Yerushalayim is a walled city, and normally if you sell your house in a walled city, you could redeem it only up till a year. After a year, it's sold for perpetuity, and it doesn't even come back at Yovel. Yerushalayim is not that way. Even though it's a walled city, it has a din like an open city, that if you sell an ancestral home, you could redeem it even after a year, and if you don't redeem it, it comes back to your family at Yovel. If there's an unsolved homicide, then in Yerushalayim, they don't bring the heifer and break its neck. Even if people are seduced to idolatry, the people of the city don't have a din of iranidachas, where everybody is killed with a sayef, with a sword, and the money is destroyed. The Yerushalayim can never become an iranidachas. The houses of Yerushalayim can never get leprosy. We don't allow people to have balconies or projections coming out of their houses. There's no garbage dumps. There's no big furnaces. And there's no gardens and orchards, except for the famous garden of roses, which was from the early prophets, where they manufactured from it the kippus hayarden, the amber, which was one of the ingredients that they put in the ketores that was offered in the Beis Hamikdash. We don't raise in Yerushalayim chickens, and we don't leave over a dead body in Yerushalayim. Either we bury it right away or take it out from the city. So now the Gemara is going to explain. You notice I whisked through that very quickly without really explaining it, because now the Gemara is going to explain each one. I should welcome in Rabbi Kranz, and it's nice to have 30 Zoomers over here. Marshall, get your act together. You know what I mean? You're close to the promised land over here, Marshall. Is Marshall here? He was here before. Oh, he is there. Oh, he's very far away. Must be with a Frankfurter or something. I think he's in the kitchen cooking. Oh my goodness. All right. If I had a quarter for every one of my Talmidim that cook while I give share. Now, it lends a whole new meaning to what's cooking. So now the Gemara is going to explain all 10 enactments. The first one is Marshall shall not cook while he's listening to the Ein abayis cholet ba. A house is not sold for perpetuity in Yerushalayim. Why? Bava Kama Daf asher lo chayma, and the house in a city that has a wall should be litzmisus for perpetuity lekona oso, to the one that acquires it l'dairaisa, for his generations. But you cannot own land in Eretz Yisrael, in Yerushalayim, because Yerushalayim is lo nischalka l'shvatim. Yerushalayim is national property, and therefore you don't really own it, and therefore the law of Bati Arechaima doesn't apply. The Kesavar Nischalki Yerushalayim L'Shvatim. This is unlike the opinion that Yerushalayim was divided between Yehuda and Binyamin. This opinion holds that Yerushalayim is not owned by any of the Shvatim, and therefore they don't bring a heifer in case of an unsolved homicide. When you find a corpse, unsolved homicide, in the land Asher Hashem Elikecha Noisein L'chol L'rishto, a land that Hashem gave to you as a inheritance, and this doesn't apply to Yerushalayim because again, Yerushalayim lo nischalk l'shvatim, it wasn't divided to the shvatim. And we don't make it a city that's gone astray to kill all the occupants with the sword and burn all the property, because it says Arecha, it says only your cities. Yerushalayim lo nischalk l'shvatim, and again, Yerushalayim was not one of your cities. It doesn't have the leprosy. Normally, if there is red or greenish blotches on your house, on two walls at the corner, the house becomes leprous, and at different stages we might tear it down to the ground. We don't do that in the house in Yerushalayim. I have given the plague of tzaras bebeis eretz achuzaschem, in houses of the land of your inheritance. And again, Yerushalayim was not inherited. Yerushalayim lo nischalk l'shvatim. Now, we don't project from the walls of the houses projections like a flagpole that sticks out and it's a tefach, or gustarois, or balconies. Why? Because then somebody walking underneath it would be under an oil, and if there would be kazayis min a mace, then he would be tamei because he's under a roof with a mace. And since in Yerushalayim there's a lot of kachim, because you could eat kachim kalim, shlamim, toida, mais behema, bechar in all of Yerushalayim, therefore they didn't have any balconies in Yerushalayim. Also, there's another reason, because there would be low projections, and then when it was very crowded in Yerushalayim, during the regalim, when there were hundreds of thousands of people, they would hurt themselves. That the pilgrims that come up for Aliyah L'Regel, all the Yidden that come up, I shouldn't call pilgrims, but the Olim that come up for Aliyah L'Regel might hurt themselves. And they don't make dumps, because in dumps there collects vermin, and some of the vermin are avois hatoma, like the lizards and the chameleons are the shmei shvatzim, when they're dead, are cause toma. We don't want a proliferation of toma. Children would carry it out, they play with it, and we don't want a proliferation of toma in Yerushalayim, mishum shkatzim. Ve'ein oisim b'kivshaynais, and we don't make furnaces mishum kutra, because of smoke, because the smoke would damage the walls of Yerushalayim, and also because we don't want the smoke to mingle with the smoke of the Mizbeach. Ve'ein oisim b'ginois pardesim, and we don't make gardens and orchards, mishum sircha, because of the smell. First of all, it's the smell of the fertilizer, and also when caring for garden and orchards, you have to uproot the dead plants and the reeds, and they decay and cause the smell. Ve'ein megadlim b'tarnegelim, because the chicken again grab hold of all kinds of vermin, and they'll move it around, and it could fall on kachim, mishum kachim. And we don't keep overnight a dead body. That's a Gemara. The Gemara doesn't offer us a reason. That's a tradition that we have Rebbe from the time of Sinai. Now we go back to our Mishnah. Our Mishnah tells us that one of the things that a Jew is not supposed to do is ein megadlim chazerim b'chol makom. We don't raise swine. A Jew does not breed swine. Why not? So the Gemara tells us this was a very tragic time. Alexander Yanai was one of the Chashmonaim kings, and his wife was Queen Alexandra. And when Alexander Yanai died, she took over, and she was the queen of Klal Yisrael, Queen Alexandra Salome. And when she died, the plan is that her oldest son, Hyrcanus, would take over. But Aristobulus, which was another son, he didn't want to relinquish the throne to Hyrcanus, and therefore they fought. And they each had their followers, and when they fought with one another, so Aristobulus set siege on Yerushalayim. He didn't let anybody out. He didn't let them bring in food. It resulted in tremendous famine. However, they were both Jews, and therefore they allowed them to lift up from outside 2 lambs for the Tamid Shel Shachris and the Tamid Shel Ben Arbayim. So it says the Gemara, Hyrcanus min b'fnim. Hyrcanus was on the inside, Aristobulus mibchutz. Aristobulus was on the outside. B'chol yom, and every day, Mishalshem lem b'kupa dinarim. They would lower down to the outside Jews a basket of money. V'yamal lehem tamidim, and they would give them 2 lambs to bring for the carbon tamid. Hayisham zaken echad. There was a trader inside Yerushalayim, inside Eretz Yisrael, inside the old city. Sheyamakir b'chochmas Yavanis. He knew the secret code of the Greeks. Amalahem, he sent them a code, calls Mansha Sukim Ba'avayda. If you allow them to continue doing the temple service, Einim Sarim B'yedchem, they won't be delivered into your hands. So Lamacher, when Shilshalu Dinarim, when they lowered down coins, B'kupa, Behelulem Chazir, they sent up a pig instead of a lamb. Kevin Shigil Achatzi Achayma, once the swine reached halfway up the wall, Nazi part of the chayma, it grabbed with its claws the wall. It caused a nationwide earthquake, 400 parsais by 400 parsais. And that, of course, led to the destruction of Yerushalayim by the hands of the Roman general Pompey. Cursed is a person who raises swine, and cursed is the man who teaches his son the code of the Greeks. And because of the devastating famine that resulted at that time because of the siege, they said, there was an incident that the Omer, which was usually brought from crops right near the base of English, they couldn't find crops Meginoi Satzrifin until all the way far, far away in the garden of Tzrifin, the garden of the huts, Ushte Alechem, and they brought the 2 loaves from wheat, Bikasein Seicher, from the very, very far away Bikasein Seicher, because nearby they didn't have any because of the famine resulting from the siege. What a nice daf, Rabbi Isai. We're going to learn the Mishnah Yomis now.